Hey, welcome back to my channel. Today I'd like to talk about a movie from 1990 called The First Power, starring Lou Diamond Phillips as Logan, Tracy Griffith as Tess, Jeff Kober as Channing, the serial killer in this movie. I'm going to screw this gentleman's name up, but he was in Forrest Gump with Tom Hanks and a slew of other movies and TV shows. Makalete Williamson, I think that's how you say his name. I'm sorry. Also in the movie, if you look closely, there's a scene where Tess and Logan go into a bar, and the bartender is played by none other than Bill Moseley of Otis Driftwood fame from House of Thousand Corpses, The Devil's Rejects. Plus, he played Chop Top in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, and he's been in hundreds of other horror movies, but he makes a brief appearance in this movie. This movie was written and directed by a gentleman named Robert Resnikoff. This is the only movie I am familiar with by him. I think he went into TV after this. You have to check his IMDb on it. I'm not sure what he did after this. But this is the one movie I'm sure he directed. And the movie was made for $10 million, and it was shot in the city of Los Angeles. Now, for Lou Diamond Phillips, this is one of his starring roles. I know he had been in Young Guns a couple years before this. And right before this, he did a movie called Disorganized Crime with Ed O'Neill and a bunch of other guys that would be recognizable. That was like a kind of a screwball robber comedy kind of movie. I actually own that on Blu-ray. I haven't seen it. I haven't watched it in a long time. But anyway, back to The First Power. Originally, this movie was called Transit, but the studio felt it needed a new title because they wanted to make it clear to the audience that this was a supernatural horror thriller. So they changed the name to The First Power, which is referenced in the movie anyway, so I guess it was an easy connection to make, so the studio changed the name. So basically, this movie is about this serial killer called the Pentagram Killer in Los Angeles. And when the movie starts, he's already killed 15 people, and the cops have not tracked him down. And Lou Diamond Phillips' character is the main detective on the case. And they get these random phone calls from this woman, and they're told when he's going to strike next, where he's going to strike next, not exactly when. So they set up a sting operation, and they have cops everywhere, and they have this woman cop as bait. And they're out there for a few nights, and nothing happens, and they're about to pull the plug when all of a sudden she disappears, and they don't know where she is. So Logan and his partner go looking for her, and his partner finds her first in this cave in this park, and the Pentagram Killer is has her all tied down with candles around her, ready to do this ritualistic killing. And the partner gets knocked down, but Lou Diamond Phillips shows up in time to stop the killing from happening. And in the fight with the killer, Lou Diamond Phillips' character gets stabbed a few times in the stomach, but he ends up taking the killer down. And he has to get taken to the hospital, but they fast forward. They show the court date. They don't actually show the court. They don't show court going on like the hearing. But they fast forward past, and the cops are celebrating he's getting the death penalty. And he gets a phone call from this woman who gave him the tip. And she goes, "You lied to me. You shouldn't be given the death penalty. You made a huge mistake." And she hangs up. And it cuts to the day of his execution. They show the guards marching him towards the gas chamber. Lou Diamond Phillips' character and his partner are up in the seats watching. The killer's kind of joking and kind of just staring at Lou Diamond Phillips. And when they strap him down and close the door, he just stares at Lou Diamond Phillips the whole time as the gas pours in and he falls asleep. And all of a sudden he starts twitching, and somebody says, that's normal, it's just muscle reflexes. And then all of a sudden he wakes up, produces a knife, which comes out of nowhere, but it's a dream sequence, ends up being like a dream sequence anyway, smashes the glass and starts coming up towards Lou Diamond Phillips. He shoots him and he won't stop. And right before a knife's about to come down on him, he wakes up. It's a nice nightmare. But they use a lot of nightmares and visions a lot in this movie. So Lou Diamond Phillips wakes up, and the cops come and get him, and there's another murder. Well, here it's the same woman cop that the Pentagram Killer had in his cave, and she's dead in the exact same spot the Pentagram Killer had her. So, and they have this guy they like for it because he was close by, blood all over him, this junkie. And he's kind of like comatose. He's sitting there in his cell, and he's like out of it. And Lou Diamond Phillips goes in to talk to him, and he doesn't say anything. And all of a sudden, he says something. He goes, "See you around, buddy boy." And that's exactly what Channing said to him. And he's like, What'd you say? And the guy's just totally catatonic. And he's, So Channing's back. And we come to find out through Tess, who comes in and says, look, I'm a psychic. I'm the one that was giving you the tips. And they kind of blow her off first, but then she gives him some information that makes him think, well, maybe there's something here. Maybe she's in on it. And they come to find out when they executed him, they actually released his spirit, and he's set to roam free by Satan to possess bodies and cause havoc. And that's basically what goes on. He body hops from body to body. Sometimes you see just the body. Sometimes you see his face in the body. It just depends. But Jeff Kober is excellent as the killer. Is there some over-the-top moments? Absolutely. Lou Diamond Phillips' cop character, while I think Lou Diamond Phillips has a really good performance in this movie, he's very quick to fire his gun off at any moment. For no disregard for the public or anybody, he's just ready to fire the gun. And so, yeah, that's a little over the top. But there are some really effective foot chases in this movie, car chases in this movie. The killer is very effective. Tracy Griffiths is good as the psychic. There's a nun that comes into play later that tells him how to kill Channing once and for all. She gives him this dagger that they have to stab him with. And the final showdown takes place in this like cistern in this old water treatment plant. And there's some action at the end, and then finally they kill him, or so you think. And at the end, Lou Diamond Phillips is still alive, even though the cops shot him, because when they show up, he's over a nun. He turns back and he possesses the nun. And it's him. He shows his own self to Lou Diamond Phillips as they're fighting. When the cops show up, he turns back into the nun. And he's like, please don't, like pretending he's the nun. And Lou Diamond Phillips knows better, and he stabs him, and the cops shoot him. Now, they do say in the movie how if somebody's on drugs or an alcoholic or injured, it makes it easier for this guy to take over their body, possess them. And so at the end, you're kind of left with questions, because it shows Tracy Griffith sitting by Lou Diamond Phillips in the hospital, and all of a sudden he wakes up and tries to grab her. And then she snaps out of it, and he's still laying there unconscious. But it leaves you hanging at the end, because then it kind of fades to black, where it makes you think, well, maybe Channing's in Lou Diamond Phillips' body because he was shot. But you'll never know. They never made a sequel, and it's the only movie. So it's kind of cool they leave it on a cliffhanger. I kind of like movies like that. So for some movies it works for. We don't always need a sequel to know what the hell's going on or what the future holds. It's a nice, contained little action horror thriller. And it's really well done. It's well directed. It's well acted. Yes, there's some over-the-top moments and some gaps in logic, but overall, it's a fun time. If you've never seen it, I highly recommend checking it out. It's not that long of a movie. It's like an hour and 40 minutes. It's not a waste of your time. I would give the movie a 7.75 out of 10. Some of the issues, some of the gaps in logic kind of knock it down a little bit, but overall, it's a very enjoyable movie. And it's a typical early 90s action thriller, but this one leans more towards the horror side. There's blood in there, there's a lot of cool scenes, and if you're a horror fan, it's definitely a movie that's kind of been forgotten. I don't hear a lot of people talking about it, and it's a shame. I think it deserves a little bit more credit than it got on its release. I mean, it did okay. It was a $10 million budget, made $22 million bucks, because it didn't get good review. It didn't get really good reviews when it was released, but I recommend it. I'm giving it a good review. 7.75 for me. If you've never seen The First Power, check it out. I know it's on iTunes to stream. I'm sure you can find it on any of the streaming services you might like yourself. But that's it for me. For The First Power, have a great day. And if you like what you saw, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. If you've seen the movie, let me know what you thought of it down below, and I'll get back to you and we can have a conversation about it. Thanks, and have a great day.